So we went out last night to Crawford Brew Works with our church group. Uh, there was a charity event, and so we had a few beers in the name of charity, which is always a good excuse to have beers. But anyway, I met a guy, husband of one of the women in our group. He's usually out of town for like months at a time with his job, and he's close to my age. He's a little younger, but not much. But anyway, we got talking, and I had a few beers. Like I had 3 total, but I was very talkative, and I just started telling stories from my life. And Janet and the women were at the other end of the table, and she could, hear me every once in a while. And she was like, "Oh, Mick's got a new audience." And when we got home, I said, "Dang, I got a lot of stories. Some of them are pretty interesting." And she said, "Well, you ought to record them." And I've recorded one story on my YouTube page about the argument that Jen and I had that resulted in the broken glass, and it's a funny story. And I'm hoping that someday my kids will discover these and after I'm gone and remember their dad, but who knows. But anyway, here's the story I told. We were talking about hunting, and you can hear JoJo in the background eating probably, but that's all right. He's such a good boy. He's our current dog. Anyway, I digress. I had a buddy named Steve Magnuson, and we were good friends, oh man, from probably 1980 till 96. And, our friendship waned as we got a family, me and Janet, and he never did have kids with his wife, Kathy. And, circles change, that's just the way life is. But anyway, Mag was a great friend of mine, and I think of him often and fondly. But anyway, we were deer hunters at the time, and always trying to find a new place to hunt deer. Well, Mag's father-in-law, who lived in Cherokee, had an army buddy that lived in Atalissa, Iowa. Kenny Regennider was his name. They both passed away by now, I am sure. But anyway, we met Kenny out at his farm, and he showed us the land that we could hunt, and it was a decent spot. We're just trying to shoot some deer. So opening day comes, and we get out there before light, and it's cold. It's December, and I had a bucket that I sat on, and Mag sat somewhere in this timber. I sat on the edge of the timber on my bucket, and I sat there for like 3 hours. It got pretty chilly. Well, we agreed to meet up after like 3 hours if we didn't have anything. Had he shot a deer, I would have heard and went and helped him, and he would have helped me had I shot one. But there were no shots fired by me or Mag that morning. So there was this dirt road that ran in the middle of Kenny's property and next to these other folks named the Isabels. And Isabel's actual house was on the other side of this dirt road. It was a low maintenance road, seriously, just dirt. And so we knew we couldn't hunt their land, and so we abided to that. And they had some good land, but it's their land. So we were walking after we met, trying to think of our next course of action, and we're walking along the dirt road, and we come like parallel with their house, and they're all out on the porch. Their hunting party had all just met, and they had several deer like hanging from the porch roof or whatever you want to say. And they were loud, and we just we're moseying on by on the dirt road, and then all of a sudden there's this boom, boom. They shot over our heads, scared the crap out of us. Well, Mag, who was very brash, very bold, very cocky, he turns toward them with his shotgun, and he holds like this and shoots 2 over their house. And then, I'm thinking, great, freaking war games here in Atalissa, Iowa. And we just kept walking. And a few minutes after that, a pickup with several guys in the back and a couple guys in the front just blow by us on this dirt road. And they're all hooting and hollering and being redneck. And that was it. Well, as it turns out, me and Mag went around the corner back on Kenny's land, and I shot a deer, and Mag shot a deer up around the corner too. And so we had a nice hunt. Well, fast forward to 92, 3 or 4, somewhere around there. There was a murder trial going on, and what had transpired was this 16-year-old kid was on youth hunting day, and which you're supposed to be with your parents. But he wasn't. He was with 3 of his friends, and they were out there in that area that we hunted in Atalissa. Well, as it turns out, they were on Isabel's land, and I don't know if they shot a deer and it ran to Isabel's land, or if they actually shot the deer on Isabel's land. Well, the one kid shot a deer, and I'm sure they were excited, and they were on Isabel's land, and all of a sudden, 2 of the Isabels show up, 2 men, and they send 3 of the 4 kids away, and they kept the kid who shot the deer. And I don't know what they were going to do, but they were scolding him or something. And well, the kid said, enough of this, and he said, I'm out of here. And so he goes to climb over the fence to leave, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, they shot over his head. Well, this kid, in panic, he turns around and he shoots him with his shotgun, and he dropped them both. And then one of the guy was like this, and he blew off his hand, and then he finished him off. He killed him, just dead. And then he went home, and things transpired, and he was in this murder trial. He was being up for murder 1 or whatever. Probably not that, but murder. And me and Mag were interested in this trial as it's being covered in the Quad City Times. And we're sitting at the break room at Americold, and we're talking about this. This is crazy, We were just there like 3 years ago or whatever. And actually, me and Dad and Daryl hunted, and Mag hunted that land like the year before this happened. And so the trial's winding down, and I think the kid, he testified, and he said something like, I wouldn't have shot them had they not shot over my head. It freaked me out, something to that effect. It's been like 20 years over that, actually. Well, the Isabel's attorney had somebody come up to the stand and said they were very safety minded and they would never shoot over somebody's head. Well, me and Mag read this and we're like, holy crap, they're lying. They shot over our head, 94 or whatever year that was. And so Mag calls Bill Davis, and he leaves a voicemail on his machine back then on a Sunday. Well, Monday comes around and me and Mag are working, and it was a busy day at the warehouse. I mean, it looked like, overtime, and I hated overtime. We worked so much overtime, and I was dreading working overtime. And all of a sudden, we get a call to the office, Mick and Mag to the office. And we go to the office, and the plant manager, who was this pompous, arrogant man. I hate to say that, but he just was. I won't say his name or anything, but he was just difficult. And the cops come, and they have a subpoena for me and Mag to go down to the courthouse to tell the judge our story. Well, the plant manager says, no, you can't take them right now. We're really busy and blah, blah, blah. And the cop said, well, we're going to arrest you then. And, well, naturally, he backed down. And so then me and Mag went from being in the warehouse in our freezer suits and all this stuff to being in the judge's chambers, sitting across from this 16-year-old kid, the judge, and 2 attorneys. Well, we recount our stories. And the judge says, yeah, that's permissible. And so the next thing you know, we're on the stand. Joe, stop. we're on the stand, I, Mick Cutman, solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, Bible and all that stuff, and we tell our stories. And, it was bizarre that this happened, and it's not typical of people's lives to testify in a murder trial. Well, as it turns out, the next day the Quad City Times says, surprise witnesses in the, I can't remember the kid's name's case. And so it was definitely an unusual event to have happen in your life. I think the kid got 20 years. I have to believe our testimony helped him to not do longer, because it was a brutal crime. But they were out of line by shooting over his head. Now, he shouldn't have shot him, but he was a kid. And the sad thing is both those men died, and then like a year later to the date. I mean, one of the Isabels was a construction worker or a county worker, and he was dozing by not sleeping, bulldozing by the Cedar River. And the ground gave way, and his dozer tipped into the river, and he drowned. It's so much tragedy in that family. It's just a sad deal. But I thought I would share that story. It's interesting, to say the least. I hope to put more stories on as they come to mind. My dad was a storyteller, and it's sad that I didn't film him telling his stories, and he had some good ones. So I think I'll share some of mine for somebody. God bless.